and I would really appreciate it if you would stop Rob Taylor from blathering on and on.
Opinions expressed by talk show hosts, callers, or guests on the Rob Taylor Report do not necessarily represent the opinions of the hosting platform, subsidiaries, sponsors, or possibly anyone else on the planet or the known universe. From the tinfoil and lead-line broadcast bunker on the beautiful southern coast of Oregon, it's the Rob Taylor Report. So strap yourself in. Your weekly political therapy session is about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, the nearly famous Rob Taylor.
Coos County. Hello, Oregon. Hello, America and beyond. And thank you all for joining me. I think I got to shorten up that intro. It just seems too long. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It's been one hell of a day. And it's funny. I've gotten several calls on people who are filling out their ballots. I'm going to be going tomorrow and basically ballot harvesting. I'll be picking up those ballots and people are asking me to come by and help them out with their choices. And it's going to be a really good day tomorrow. And in fact, it's going to be so cool. I'm going to have at 8:00. I'm going to have a special Rob Taylor Report edition. We're going to be covering the election. And at 8:00, the Secretary of State, and I shouldn't say the Secretary of State, but the county clerk here will put out the first voting count. And it's unofficial, but it's the first voting count. So I'll be here at 8:00 to give you a summary of pretty much how things are shaping up. Usually within the first notice, we'll know who wins. Anything that's close, we'll figure it out by the time the second release of ballots, which is 10:00 tomorrow. But you got to get your ballots in. I believe you have until, is it 5 p.m. or 8 p.m. tomorrow? I'll have to check, but you got to get them in tomorrow. And if you want to play, you've got to send your ballot in. And so that's the important part. And I got to announce right now that we do have a winner. We have a winner for 3H Tree Service. Where's 3H Tree Service? They had their game today, and I think they posted their video, and within an hour they got a winner. Samantha Frost is saying AM or PM. Well, Samantha, it's either 5 p.m. or 8 p.m. I was talking about tomorrow, but it's tomorrow night. I'll be on at 8 p.m. the first release for the ballot count. And I don't know if you have to have your ballots in at 5 p.m. or 8 p.m. tomorrow. Do you know, Samantha? You might know. You ran for county clerk in Douglas County. Let me know, and we'll figure it out. But I want to bring on my first guest. He's running for the Coos County Transit position, and his name is Phil Taylor. He's no relation, but I'll tell you what, I really admire this guy. He's taking him on headstrong. How you doing, Phil?
Oh, I'm good. Good to finally meet you, Mr. Taylor.
Good to finally meet you too, Mr. Taylor. Let me ask you, do you take a lot of crap for that last name?
Only because they confused me with the South County Taylors.
Yeah.
Around Bandon.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
There's a lot of Taylor families. Are you part of the original Taylor family that came to this part of the area?
Yeah, there's a branch way back, and I don't have the whole family tree, but
yeah,
we've been around for a long time.
Well, I can tell you, if we're somewhat related, does your family tree go back to the 12th president, Zachary Taylor?
I'm not really sure.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That would be interesting to find out.
That would be interesting. A couple of years ago, my family, the Taylor family, they did a whole genealogy, and they actually traced us back to the 12th president, Old Rough and Ready, I think was his name. And it was really cool to find out I was actually related to a president. And so
we might be some distant relation. Who knows?
There's a whole lot of us Taylors out there, and it's funny because I had several black friends whose last name were Taylor, and you know how they got their last name, so it was always quite a little embarrassing. It was like, okay, well, maybe we're related somewhere off in the distance, but
anything's possible.
Anything's possible. So why and would you take all the grief of running in an election, running a campaign for the transit district?
Well, I saw that our mutual friend, Mr. Carruthers, was endorsing some candidates, so I decided I was going to jump in. Then I started doing some research about what CCAT's got planned, and they have a lot of money, taxpayer money, that they want to spend. That's probably not a good idea to spend it on.
Until that information, you were sending me that information, some of that stuff. I had no clue, Phil.
Neither did I until I started doing research.
Tell us all about it, please.
Well, right now, they budgeted over $2 million for a transport and mobility hub, and what they're calling it now is a super stop. And no idea where that will be, no idea what it will look like. They want hydrogen storage, but I don't know if I can't find information if they plan on producing hydrogen for their next phase of their plan, which by 2040, they want to spend $25 million to have a hydrogen electric bus fleet. And just doing some research on that right now, hydrogen's $14 a gallon equivalent.
No shit? $14?
Yep.
Wow, that green energy is expensive.
Well, all it does is just moves your carbon footprint somewhere else.
Explain that to us too, because that's what I found studying this.
Well, there's three main ways of making hydrogen. There's the steam methane method through natural gas, which you have to use natural gas to produce their clean burning fuel that they want to say is clean, or they use electrolysis or an algae method. But in my research, I found that there's supposed to be over $100 million of hydrogen production infrastructure built along the I-5 corridor. So I don't know if they're going to have storage here and just have a diesel truck bring it from the I-5 corridor, which doesn't seem very green to me, but
right.
I don't know. I don't know the plan. They're very stingy on the info that they're putting out.
It's kind of like the wind turbines. I mean, the more you dug, the more we asked questions, the more
you dig into it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they really don't have answers. And I'll be playing some of the questions people were asking later on in the show for people who are interested. But the hydrogen hub thing, that was something that Biden pushed. And I think we got $1 billion some odd dollars to put one in by Portland. And like you said, it was going to come down the I-5. Now, that's a good question. Whether they're going to truck it over here or whether they're going to put in some type of infrastructure to, I guess, pipe it over here would be the other alternative.
That would be an alternative, I guess, or manufacture it on site.
Manufacture it on site. Now, that would be interesting as well.
I just cannot find that information. It's very odd. And
that's how they work.
And right now, they can't even test these hydrogen electric buses in the area to see if they'll work, because obviously there's no way to fuel them. So will they work in this area? We don't know. We'll spend at least $25 million and find out.
That's the sad part, is the amount of money they spend just to get an answer that you and I already suspect it probably isn't going to work. What's the matter with petroleum? That's my whole question. We've got gas stations out here. What's wrong with it? They would be diesel buses. What's wrong with that?
Well, in my research, the hydrogen electric buses, they get about the same mileage as a diesel bus. So, but you're spending $14 a gallon equivalent.
Right.
$14 for 3 kilograms of hydrogen is $14 per gallon of gas, essentially.
That's huge.
Yes, and
That's more than doubling what we already pay.
CCAT last year they only drove 285,755 miles. And I've managed fleets. I've been in fleets. That's not a lot of mileage to invest $25 million in clean energy that just moves your carbon footprint somewhere else. And
okay, so if they're going to put, okay, let's say this goes through and they want to do this hydrogen and say they want to do it on site. So they're going to have to build a facility for this. So that means they're
Yep.
going to have to purchase property for this. And that
Yeah,
property will be taken.
they want to double their footprint essentially. I think their current bus barn is half an acre, and they want again, no idea where this will be sited. Their $2 million transit center and mobility hub could be downtown Coos Bay, could be Empire, no idea. But they've got the money for it. So.
And this is what I found strange is that the gentleman you're running against, Simon Alfonso, or is it Alfonso Simon?
Simon Alonso Jr.
Simon Alonso. That's it.
Mm.
He is someone who's on the board of the Devereaux Center, and the former chair of the board, or what was her title? I forget her title. Tara Reed Johnson.
Executive director, I believe.
Executive director, and she's also going to be in that district. So you would have two people who are connected to the Devereaux on the CCAT district. And that just seems to me to be a little suspicious. Do you find that a little suspicious, or what do you think about that?
I think it's a little odd. I also find it odd that they're looking for property in the Devereaux Center's properties currently for sale.
Yeah.
Which is 1 acre, which would double their footprint that they want. So I don't know. I'm not. We'll see how that plays out. You know how the local politics works.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, you get so little information. And then I love it because anything you say or speculate, because that's all we have is speculation. And so we're speculating on how they're going to bring it over. We're speculating on, and then they'll say, you and I are spreading misinformation just because of the speculation. And how else do we do it if they don't give us any freaking answers? See how they always lead us into that trap?
I received the budget information that I've been looking at a few months ago, and I had to scour their webpage to find out how they get grants, where their grants come from, and everything was kind of hidden and buried. And now I see I think it was May 11th, they updated their Facebook or their webpage that now they're committed to going green and all that. So now they're telling people what their plan is. Not that I'm at all opposed to green energy, if it makes sense.
Right.
But the taxpayers shouldn't be on the hook for it.
Well, and that's just it. It's if I would be for the wind turbines if it made sense, and then you start studying it, and you're like, this is in no stretch of the imagination makes any sense. But then if you look at the subsidies that are going to these companies, and this would be a fully subsidized thing, on top of the fact that this is a taxing district. We pay for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a property taxing district, right?
They get, I believe, $10,000 from the county.
Okay.
And everything else is federal. And right now the state has a lot of state transportation infrastructure grants that they're pushing out for green energy. So you know how it goes. Everybody sees that free money, which it's taxpayer money. Somebody has to pay for it. And if it fails, we own it. And
Well, and that's the nice thing of having someone like you on the board is that we can always go back to you, ask you what's going on,
Yeah,
and I'm sure you can always give us an update on this. And this is something
yeah.
that a lot of politicians don't do. They don't really want to talk to the public because they don't want to put their cards on the table. And if you're honest right from the beginning, like you're already saying, you would support it if it made sense, but I'm not going to
Yeah.
support it because it doesn't make sense. Well, then there's no problem with you coming out and saying, look, this is what they're doing, right? And why don't the other
Well,
politicians do this if they weren't hiding something?
well, just looking at the numbers, it doesn't make sense for the miles driven, the amount of fuel they spend every year, which it's like $194,000 on fuel. And I worked at fleets where the yearly fuel budget is $2 million, which is the equivalent of CCAT's entire operating budget. So
Right.
this,
How many drivers were in that fleet? Your fleet?
there are quite a few, and
That would have to be a lot to be spending that much money.
well, big trucks, heavy equipment, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Cats, yarders,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I was just chuckling at the total miles CCAT drove and drives every year. That's really not a lot. That's
Were you surprised by that it really wasn't that many?
actually, yeah, I was. And they move 56,000 people a year, which CCAT is very important to those people, and they're low income on a fixed income.
Yeah.
And I don't think they would be impressed if they're taxed out of a house or told they can have to do with less so that somebody can have toys, which is basically what's going on here.
And I wonder if they get the irony. The very people that they're trying to help, the low income people and people who have disabilities, people who have other needs for this because they're handicapped or otherwise, and those are the very people who can't afford new taxes, can't afford this type of increase.
Yeah.
It's contradictory.
They're already tapped out, I'm sure they would just be ecstatic that they're driving around in fancy new hybrid buses and a nice super stop mobility center somewhere that has ride share apparently, and I believe little electric bikes you could rent, stuff like that.
Yeah. That's nice. Let me ask you, are they, because they've got grants, this is coming from the state, have you seen any DEI policies shoved into this stuff?
Well, actually, I was watching their previous board meeting, budget meeting about 5-6 days ago, and they appointed somebody from DHS on the budget advisory committee whose job will be working on DEI. So I'll have to go back and rewatch that and dig into that a little bit. And
yeah,
I don't know.
What does he do?
Well, it's a she.
Okay.
I assume. I don't know. You want to ride on the bus? Jump on the bus. I don't think there's a DEI officer that needs to be. That you need a DEI officer or something for that. You want to ride on the bus? Hop on.
Hop on the bus.
Yep.
I'm sorry. We have too many white people today on the bus. You'll have to get off. One white person will have to get off.
Our mix is a little off today. Sorry. You're going to have to take a cab.
One of you's going to have to identify as a female. I'm sorry, guys. We just bite the bullet. It's, take it for the team.
Sorry. It's for paperwork. We'll just mark you down as that.
And this is the thing that annoys the hell out of people like you and me. I'm sure you get annoyed by this. This is more money. I mean, because that lady has to get a salary that they just voted on.
She's volunteering, but she'll be working on the DEI aspect of riding the bus, which everybody's welcome.
Right.
I don't get it,
I don't get it either.
It's just one of those buzzwords.
I could see her. Okay, is she going to be doing any grant writing? Did they authorize her for any grant writing?
Not as far as I know. I believe Tara Johnson and Melissa Metz take care of that.
Yeah, it's hard to
Which
find a writer.
I'm still a little confused about who actually employs Melissa Metz. I don't believe she's an actual CCAT employee. I think she's contracted through South Coast Business at $106,000 a year with a 3% cost of living increase.
Oh my!
Yeah,
That's quite a bit of money. Is she? And she's full time.
let me see. Nope, just under full time. About 1,322 cumulative hours.
And so therefore, she's also on PERS. I would take it.
I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure who she actually works for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the nice thing about being on the board. You'll be able to find that out.
Yeah, it's South Coast Business does all their accounting and stuff, and it's a very interesting web of stuff they've got going on, which I never knew until I jumped into this.
That's cool.
It's more complicated than operating a bus system should be.
Rod Taylor, I don't know. I don't think he's on the board. Is he on the board anymore? Do you know?
I don't believe so. I believe he was, but he's not on the board anymore.
And I remember one of the important things he did is that they had a measure or a resolution, I'm not sure what they called it, where they wanted to, well, it must have been a policy where they wanted to stop people from being able to bring firearms onto the bus. And he was able to kill that. One person was able to kill that because he was able to convince them. Do you agree with that? Are you all right with that one?
What, people taking firearms on the bus?
Yeah.
If they're legally allowed to have it, that's fine.
Yeah.
I got no problem at all with firearms.
I can't come on, twirling my 6-shooter, huh?
Yeah, I don't know why that would be a question unless somehow it was a problem, but I've never heard anything. It might have been a solution in search of a problem.
And that's usually what happens. It's a solution in search of a problem. You'll find that happens on a board all the time. And that's because every board member has to validate their position. And you're already seem to be doing what you're supposed to be doing, going over the books, seeing who's getting paid what, seeing whose position is who's in what position. And that's exactly what you do when you go on these boards. And I find it funny because there are people all the time who'll tell you, oh, well, you're not qualified because you don't have a degree. You don't have a college degree and you're not qualified. You've never been in government before. And I think, well, actually, that's what I want. Someone who's not been brainwashed and indoctrinated by academia, and someone who's not been in politics so long that they only speak politiese.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't our government set up so that lay people could operate it?
Wasn't it? Yes.
That people jump in for a couple of years because they see a problem.
Yep.
Fix it or work on it and then go back to doing what they were doing before.
Right.
It's not a lifetime appointment. You shouldn't be sitting on boards for 20 years.
I question anyone who's been on the board for more than 8 years. That would it's a 4-year term, right?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead.
If I'm elected, I think mine will be like a year until I have to run for re-election. Because I'm jumping in after somebody left. So
that's understandable. So but so you'll have to run again in a year.
Something like that, yeah. I forget the exact date. So
it's easier when you're incumbents. Incumbents always have it much easier. And it's so One of the things that I also find interesting about CCAT that I didn't realize is that you guys, and I don't know, well, maybe it's not true because I'm thinking of the board in Douglas County. There's a transit board in Douglas County,
Mhm.
and they had 50 violations from ODOT. So does ODOT also regulate? Did they also regulate CCAT as well?
Um, the drivers have to be specifically licensed to carry passengers, and I haven't looked into that yet. And I would not be happy at all if I'm elected and there are drivers that are violating ODOT
Right.
procedures and policies. And because coming from a fleet and industrial background, safety is very important. And I don't tolerate screwing around,
Right.
especially when you're hauling passengers.
Especially when you're hauling passengers, and especially,
Yeah.
I guess, that you're hauling passengers who a lot of them have special needs.
Yes,
This-
handicapped, elderly, and just for the other drivers on the road. That doesn't work for me at all.
I could see that. Yeah.
If I'm elected, then I'll definitely look into that.
And yeah, they got rid of their violations. So they hired a new chairman or CEO of that district.
Oh,
And from what I understood is that he had a friend who worked for the ODOT, Department of
yeah.
Transportation. They had 50 violations. He hired this guy to come in, and within a couple of months, he got rid of all the violations. And I thought that was really smart. Get a guy who's actually knows how
Yep.
to maneuver. And then so if you have that problem, let me know, and I'll get you his name in a heartbeat. So,
Well, I've been watching, and there are drivers that are doing some things that I would definitely talk to them about. They just jump in and go. They don't check lights or tires, and they don't even look under the bus to see if there's a big puddle of oil. You know?
oh wow.
Yeah. So
Oh wow, no, that would be a huge problem for me. No,
I-
that's the first thing you do is you inspect the truck before you take it anywhere, right?
I've been watching from afar, and there's a few things that concern me, but I'm very interested to figure out why the bus stops are in such terrible condition along Cape Arago Highway. And
I've seen homeless people living in
yeah,
the bus stop.
I live out on Cape Arago Highway, and I drive by them constantly, but I've never seen them cleaned or inspected. And I would like to have a talk with the maintenance guy, because just I was at the American Market and he pulled in beside me, and I recognized the maintenance truck. He just did his inspection from the parking spot, went in, got some food, and then took off.
Oh,
I'm like,
whoa. Wow.
You are very good at your job, sir. You can inspect it from 50 feet away.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, those visual inspects. Yeah, I'd chew one of my guys out. He did something like that. Oh, that would piss me off. No.
Oh yeah.
No.
Didn't walk over, look for needles or anything, and just off he went. Which employees get away with what the bosses allow. So
that's true. And so the boss would be so you're the board, and I'm sure you
Yes.
hire someone who's in charge. That would be the intermediate between the rest
the
of the
general
employees of
manager.
the board.
That's
General
Melissa
manager?
Metz.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's Melissa Metz.
All right, that would be interesting because I'd like to know how many drivers you have and how well she's been dealing with that stuff as too. Because I think they said they had 48 drivers over in Douglas County. I don't know. It seems like we're a much smaller county.
Oh, there's only 19 full-time employees.
Wow, that's more than I thought.
Well, so that's 16, 17 drivers. And there's a dispatcher in the office and a supervisor in the office. Everybody else is driver or maintenance. So
One of the big things that the drivers were complaining about in Douglas County was the fact that they didn't have radios, and when the new board took over, that was one of the things they got them was radios so they can communicate. Are you
Yeah.
having any problems like that, or are you able to communicate with drivers? What's the situation with that?
I believe they just got new tablets so they can communicate and dispatch better. And if I'm not mistaken, that survey that they're currently conducting, they're giving away 2 tablets that they didn't use. So
Understandable. Wow.
Yeah. Don't keep them as spares in case somebody drops one or something.
Right.
Just give away.
Giveaway. Yeah.
Mhm.
And believe me, I don't even think you have to give anyone anything to get their opinion. They'll give it to you for free. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll give it to you more than
I'll pay you not to give me that opinion, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I know. So that was interesting for the Douglas County and the difference between them and what they're going through here.
Yeah.
And they're looking at buying new buses, and I didn't hear whether they were going to make them hydrogen buses as well. But I can understand why they're doing that, because in Portland they're trying to put in that big hydrogen hub. Like I said, bring it down I-5, and if they transport it over on a truck, they're wasting their time because they're defeating the purpose of green energy. And if they do it through pipeline, that would be eminent domain. They would have to do eminent domain, which means we're going to lose property. Either way, it seems like a losing deal.
It doesn't make economic sense, really. It's just, I understand that everybody wants to go green, and I'm not at all opposed to that. But you're just shifting the carbon footprint to somebody else's backyard.
Do you get now? I don't know if you've gotten these reports because you're not on the board yet.
No.
Is there any? I haven't asked the question yet, Bill.
No.
Okay. Is there any? Have you had any reports of violence on the bus? Have you had any problems where bus drivers were threatened, or passengers were threatened, or anyone felt threatened?
I've heard rumors that the folks coming from Coquille after they spend a few hours in lockup get on the CCAT bus and make their way back to Coos Bay, and they could be very violent.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel sorry for the bus driver who has to go between Coquille and Coos Bay, because you have to put up with, because they're going to have total attitude.
Oh, yeah. And I would just have a policy that if the driver doesn't feel comfortable carrying someone like that, don't carry them.
Don't carry them.
Yeah. Because if you just crawled out of the gutter and you have vomit and dirt and mud all over yourself, you can just walk it back to the Coos Bay.
Yeah, because I don't want to sit next to you as a passenger, and especially if I'm someone in a wheelchair who's handicapped, I definitely don't want to sit next to you. And I feel sorry. I didn't think of that, but CCAT must be one of the main transportations for all the people from North Bend and Coos Bay, and even Bandon and other cities that go to Coquille.
Yeah, and if I'm elected, I want to look into seeing if the jail gives out free bus vouchers to get people out of Coquille after they've been after they've had a stay in the Coos County Jail.
That would be interesting.
That would definitely stop.
Cool.
They can pay the fare
or walk.
Yeah, or walk.
Yeah. James Smith says they got to spend that budget money 100% or they don't get a raise next year. Is that still a thing? He's asking if that's still the way they budget.
Oh, I think that's pretty much common with every government budget. It always increases. It always goes up.
Yeah, and you want to see them fight over spending the budget. Go to the last meeting before the end of the year. School boards are notorious for this, and they're arguing over buying pencils and stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, we got to spend the last 100,000 pencils. We need pencils.
I've worked in government before also, and at the end of the budget year, if you have money left, you better find a way to burn it up
Yeah.
and get it spent, waste it, do whatever, because you'll get less next year.
You'll get less next year, and which is the wrong way of budgeting. I never understood that. As a business owner, I couldn't function that way. I have to go by what I have, not what potentials
Well,
there are.
I have this weird theory that just because government has money doesn't mean they should have to spend it.
That's a crazy wild idea.
Let's be a good steward with the taxpayers' money, kick it back if we don't need it, and just be a good steward of the taxpayers' dollars.
I think that's all that most people are asking today. And
Yeah.
so I guess that would be my next question. One of the things that these tax districts do is that many times throughout the years, they'll ask for tax increases. What if the board is saying we need a tax increase? What are you going to do as a board member in that situation?
It would depend on the circumstances. If they want fancy new toys, no, it's not needed. If they want to switch to a different style bus that's double what they're paying for a Ford E450, no, the E450s do just fine. You just have to keep it simple, you know.
I'm voting for you just because you knew what an E450 was.
Yeah, that is. They have quite a few of those in the fleet, and little Ford Sprinter vans, and one nice shiny 2023 F-150 that the maintenance guy drives around.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Which that's an interesting story in itself, because when I first started running, I looked at their inventory list and saw it, and I'd never seen it before. Never saw it at their bus barn, so I went looking for it, started asking questions, and it shows up a couple days later. So I don't know where it was, don't know if it was used as a take-home vehicle or what the deal with that was. But,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's a pet peeve of mine. We've had problems in the county just like that. They start thinking it's their own vehicle.
Personal vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of my things is and this happened to me the last time I was on a plane. Some idiot brings some kind of wild animal on there, claiming it's a service animal, and everyone goes along with it. Much like everything else today, we go along with the crazies. We encourage them, and I'm just wondering, what is the deal with service animals, and do you know anything about it? Because that would be annoying. You get on a bus and you got a peacock next to you. Oh, sorry, I can't remove that. That's my service peacock.
Well, I think everything identifies as a service animal now.
Yes.
Can you just tone it down, people? You don't need to bring a little horse onto a bus or an airplane, a snake,
a
raccoon, whatever else you can imagine. If you need that kind of companionship, maybe you shouldn't be traveling on an airplane
or a bus. Yeah.
Take the train.
Take the train. Train would be good.
There you go. They allow that stuff on the trains. It's fine.
Yeah. So is there anything I'm missing that you would like to talk about that you thought was an issue for the district?
It's just very confusing why it's gone on, why it's worked so well for so long, and now all these big changes. And I know they're tight where they're at on Ocean Boulevard, but my theory, my plan, there's secure storage right across the street at Alder Acres. You can park a lot of buses over there for $2 million. And we all know what that transit center and mobility hub is going to look like after 6 months. It's going to be overrun. It's going to be nasty looking, and nobody will want to use it. And another thing, how will they have to pay security at $40,000 a year to run around chasing people out of there? But again, we don't have any details yet because they're very tight-lipped about their plans, and they just recently had that little AI rendering put on the webpage. So,
Oh, I missed that.
oh yeah, it's just a little. Oh, it looks beautiful. People standing around having a good time, nice landscaping, and
See, this is what I don't want. I don't mind providing services to people who need it.
same.
But at a certain point, you're enabling people. That's what they're doing at the library. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with the library if they were just checking out books, but now they're a whole enabling center, and I don't want this to happen with CCAT. That's one of the reasons I question why the gentleman from the Devereaux Center is running.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I jumped in first, and then a couple days later, I saw he filed for the same position. So I don't know what his motivations are or what's going on with that. But
because there are other people who I would consider more left-leaning, and he could have ran against them because he claims to be more conservative. I think, well, then if that's the case, why did you run against someone who's a conservative? Why don't you run against someone who's more leftist? And that way we'd have the best of both worlds, right?
true. I was thinking earlier today that no matter who wins, me or Simon, because I butted heads with Tara Johnson.
Yeah.
And as a board member of the Devereaux Center, Simon actually fired Tara Johnson.
True.
So she's going to be a little upset no matter who wins. So
That's true. That's true. But that I've been fired by companies and rehired. So,
oh yeah,
it's one of those, you've had those employees or those boss relationships where it's a love-hate,
oh yeah, it's very codependent.
very codependent.
Oh, you're doing a great job. Get out. You're fired. Yeah.
That was with
See you tomorrow.
Commission sales was much like that. It's like I would fire you, but you bring in too much money, assholes.
You're fired. See you at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
All right, let me see this. James Smith says reallocation of funds. I've heard that a few times since I've been watching Rob at the commissioners' meetings. Is this the proper stage to head at? Is that a black hole? Do they stand accountable for where the real allocation of funds goes? And I guess what he's asking you is, do you think that they're being responsible on the board now? Really is what he's asking.
Currently, I think CCAT runs very well. But now they want to complicate it with building a huge transport mobility hub. That's, I think what's going on is they're getting into competition with other cities like Bend that recently built one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a status symbol. Somebody on the board wants their name on it as their heritage,
Yeah. And that's not unusual. What you're saying is absolutely true. I mean, I see politicians who'll stick in it just so that they've got a train station with their name on it. Yeah, I've seen that.
So eventually they'll get their name on a building instead of just being a good steward of the taxpayers' money and then going and doing whatever they did before.
Yeah. I hate politics. I hate it.
I do too. I never wanted to get into politics until you just look around and see what's going on, and it's pretty much just the same person with a different name. All these little boards march in lockstep, and they just hemorrhage our taxpayer money, and at some point it has to stop. Common sense has to come back. There's no need to complicate a small rural transportation district bus route. It's working fine. Let's just keep it working for the people that rely on it and need it.
That's wise advice there.
Yeah.
Because that's where the screw ups come. As soon as they start expanding it, as soon as the budget gets bigger, That's when all of a sudden things go haywire.
It just starts snowballing. And what will maintenance be on this new facility? What will it cost? We don't know. What will maintenance on these buses cost? Not sure.
And would you have to hire a whole new crew to work on those buses compared to diesel buses?
There would definitely have to be some retraining. And I've sold parts. I would definitely have to get into the weeds with the people selling the buses, just to ask them, how much will it cost for a brake job on this bus? Is it going to cost $4,000 or $500? Are you using common parts, or is it all specialty stuff? How long? Because they're all proprietary drive systems. So, and the aftermarket won't pick up and make replacement parts. So how long will you guys, the manufacturer, sell parts? Are you going to sell this bus for 4 years and then discontinue it? And then can't get parts for it? It's just a very bad idea, because the infrastructure just doesn't exist. There's so many variables. It's just going to be a waste of money.
I think we have to elect you because you're an asset to that board. I mean, they just renominated them with this. And I'm not sure if it's a he or a she. Harper is the young person's name, but he's like 19. You know what I mean? He hasn't done shit. You know what I mean? And here he is on this board, and it's like, you are asking very tough questions based on experience that you've had running other fleets. And those questions that you're asking are something that anyone in business should be asking.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if the people who are on there, I don't see Tara Johnson's concerned about, our tax dollars, because she'll just write another grant. She'll comes from out of the air for her.
Oh yeah. That's what she did at the Devereaux Center. It's all free money for her. And I always get upset when somebody says it didn't cost the taxpayers anything. This was a grant. No, grants aren't free. There's no benevolent billionaire that's just handing out money. The taxpayers pay for everything.
Right.
And most of the time, what we're paying for is just not needed, because what we have is working just fine. And there's no need to complicate things.
Wow, that's you are making incredible sense here. I'm so glad I had you on. Alex Bowser, he made the question, and I'm kind of curious too, because we were talking about the bus rides from Coquille, but is that bus ride free? Someone has to pay to get on the bus, and what is the cost of that? Do you know?
I think it's about $6. It's all subsidized, so I haven't done the math yet, but I suspect if you were to pay what the ride is actually worth, it'd probably be $100, because it's all subsidized, which that's fine, because the people that use that, the CCAT, they desperately need it, and it is desperately needed in the area. But we don't need to run people around in fancy limos.
No, not at all.
Cappuccino machines in them and stuff.
Cappuccino, yeah. Well, hey, we're in the coffee business, my family. Maybe there's an idea, Bill.
Yeah.
We got to get in on the grid.
We could put coffee bars in the buses.
We'll put coffee bars in the buses. I love this idea. Sir, would you like an espresso, a latte? There. We could take care of you.
We might be onto something here. We can supplement CCAT's income.
I'll make a call to my wife where we'll talk. We'll talk off the show.
All right. I like that idea.
I like that idea too. Oregon Outlaw says I sound garbled. I think it's when I'm talking. It's me. I'm the one who's garbled here.
I'm a little bit away from my Wi-Fi, sitting in a truck, so it might be me.
All right.
Or it's just my raspy voice. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? What? Anything else before I get you out of here that you would like to tell voters? Because I think they should vote for you. I hope they vote for you. Tomorrow's the last chance, folks. Tomorrow's it. What do you got to
Get
say
them
to
in,
them?
folks. Get the ballots in. And I don't know. Do you have any other questions?
I don't. I'm kind of out on questions. Because it's really there's not a lot for a district. You know what I mean? It's for a bus district. It's pretty
It's
black and white, right?
yeah. It's again. There's no need to complicate it. But you know how the little politicians like to be big politicians, so they just can't be happy with what they've got going.
Yeah. That's why we need people like you, Phil. Well,
Yeah.
thanks, Phil, and good luck. I'll send you a text. Maybe we can get you on tomorrow for a few minutes at 8:00 if you're up and around.
Oh, I should be out doing my day job about then, but I'm sure I can make time.
All right, you got it.
All right. Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you, Phil, and you have a wonderful day.
Yep. You too, sir.
All right, and that was Phil Taylor. I highly recommend you vote for Phil Taylor. And let me get this up here. Phil Taylor for the Coos County Area Transportation Position 2. And Alex Bowser is asking, is CCAT a nonprofit? No, it's a taxing district. It's a taxing district. I guess you could, I don't know if I'd label that a nonprofit. I'm not sure if taxing districts are LLCs or I don't think they would be listed as either. Good question, Alex. I have no idea. And Peggy says our household voted for him. Good for you, Peggy. We did too. Like I said, he's he has a great name, Taylor. I have to kind of vote for that. I support that. But I like the idea of having someone who's a non-politician. Phil comes off as a total non-politician, and that's who we need sitting on these boards. These boards are full of people who have made a career out of living on the board. And like he said, if you're on a bus board more than 2 terms, more than 8 years, there's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. You need to get the hell off, and you need to change that. Jeff Pete says 3 votes here. All right, so there you go. And I know Phil got me and my wife both voted for him, and I'm sure many others have. And tomorrow I can guarantee you he's going to get 1, 2, 3 more votes. I'm ballot harvesting. But unlike the Republicans in Douglas County, I'm not going to be giving old people floats for their ballots. I'm going to do it the proper way. People have asked me to come by their house, talk to them about the people on the ballot, and then I'm going to take the ballot to the library or the city hall or wherever the hell I want to drop it off, because I really don't want to drive all the way to Coquille. So I'm willing to put it into the ballot box, even though I don't like those things. I really don't like those things, and I just don't like mailing it. And I'm one of those who I'm an old-fashioned guy. I do my voting on election day. That's just how I run. So tomorrow night I'm going to be on at 8:00. Chris Castleman has already confirmed. I'm going to try to confirm with several other people who are running for office tomorrow. And like I said, by 8:00 tomorrow, we should know pretty much who is in those positions and who is not. And I'm just damn curious about how this is going to turn out on social media. It's an all-out war between some of these people on these districts. And if you're on Facebook and you've been watching what's going on, I don't have to explain it to you, but for those of you who don't, it's Facebook is just, and I'm not sure if it's happening on another social media, but Facebook, wow, there is an all-out battle between what I call the forces of evil, people who want to grow government, because I think government is pretty much evil in a general sense. People who want to grow government, who want to protect the wrong people in government, such as the registered sex offenders. You got people like Curtis Buell, who's being protected by the SWAC board. That's why we need to get them off of there. You've got people like Henry Delaney, who's partnering with Marshfield High School, and we need to stop that. And the only way to stop it is to get people on those boards who can change the policy. Everything we do is about policy. And that's why I tell you, I don't care who's representing me in government. If they're placing the right policy in place, I don't care, because it's all about policy. And that's why we do what we do. Every campaign, no matter what issue we're dealing with, it's all about policy. Every single one of them. And if it's not, you got to ask yourself, why the hell are you doing this? If it doesn't change policy, if it doesn't make direct change in your government, then why the hell are you doing this? Why are you getting this person elected to office? And as you can see in the case of Phil Taylor, he's going to try to stop some of the new policies that they want to create with, well, the hydrogen buses that they want to bring in. You know, if it was a good idea, I would support it. I'd be 100% behind it. I do want to take a few minutes to talk about the meeting we had for the Department of Conservation and Land Development. That's the organization, the bureaucracy. It's not even organization because they're not very well organized, but it's a government bureaucracy for the state government. And they were directed by the legislature from a bill in 2023 that was House Bill 4080, that they would have to continue having these wind turbine meetings, whether the president passed an executive order stopping it or not. So even the people at the meeting this past Thursday, even the people who were conducting the meeting were telling us, really, there's no reason for this meeting other than we have to be here to do the meeting. And it's a silly ass game because it cost us so much money to do this. It cost so much money to bring in all of these people from all over the state to Curry County. Then they're going next to Coos County, and I forget where the other meetings are, but they're having meetings all up and down the coast, and it's costing us a fortune. And we all know for the next 4 years, the wind turbines, the turbines in the water, the off the coast turbines, they're just not going to happen. The president has killed it. And I imagine that we're probably going to get the vice president, who's currently the vice president, as president in 4 years. So you're almost guaranteed, even if Congress doesn't act on the executive order, even if it's just an executive order, which I hate executive orders. I think Congress really should pull its head out of its ass and do its job. But if Congress doesn't pass a law, then we have almost a guaranteed 8 years, I think, of not having those wind turbines to worry about. And that's what ticks me off about these meetings. But I want to play a couple of videos that I took at the meeting of people asking them questions. And I just thought it was, pretty damn interesting. Let me add this to the stage. Oh, it's asking me to remove something. Add that to the stage. Let me go ahead and make it a full screen. And heck, where is this thing? Let me play this for you.
Don't tease me.
No,
Don't
we
tease
don't
me.
know
You
the
know the
answer.
answer to that.
You don't know the answer?
We don't know yet.
There's no,
We don't know.
no, if it
So-
went through, where would it go?
It's gonna go
It's
somewhere.
actually answer where there is a potential future where if California wanted to pay for it, then it could be produced off of Oregon. And if it touched our grid before going to California, those electrons get consumed locally. So they would actually be used on the coast, even though on paper they're being paid for somewhere else. However, there could be a scenario where there is offshore wind located off of Oregon, if it ever were to happen, and they could run cable straight to California, which would then bypass these benefits to grids.
Okay, so back to your answer to me is, Lynn, we don't know who the user really is.
Right.
So isn't it false for you to claim that the Oregon energy requirements are a key driver in building offshore wind on the south coast of Oregon? Because you don't know who the energy is going to be targeted to or who's going to be marketed to.
I think that where we are is that renewable energy growth writ large for the region is the goal. It is one potential way for Oregon to meet its climate goals. It's not the only one, but it is a reason why the state is.
You're creating a different explanation for the drivers of offshore wind. I'm sorry. Do you want to shut me up? Mhm. I just want to know. I'll be quiet.
People here might want to see the presentation, and if you could just give Jeff a few minutes to get through this presentation, and then we have plenty of time. Afterwards. We don't have to do that. Because I think there's probably people who want to see the presentation, and just, it won't take that long. And then we're here until 7:30 to listen to your comments and have discussions just like. It's a question to you, is that?
Well, the problem is you're making a statement. And so when you make that statement, he's asking a question based on the statement by 2040. You know, Oregon has to be carbon footprint free by, so you're making a statement. So he's asking a question regarding that statement.
Absolutely. I appreciate that you gave me an opportunity to ask my question. I find the answer obscure and depleting of the point that he was attempting to make in his presentation. Okay, thank you. And his answers.
And his answers, please.
Thank you.
All right. All right. That was the gentleman speaking in that was Lynn Coker. He's the newly appointed Curry County Commissioner. And he was there to keep these people honest, because even at a meeting that everyone agrees is pretty much superfluous, it's unnecessary. There's no reason to be having these meetings other than the dictates of a bunch of legislators from Salem who say you shall have those meetings. And then those of us who are opposed to it, we have to go. And you know why we have to go? Because if we don't go, it gives them the opportunity to say, oh, there's no opposition here, so everybody must be for it because there's nobody here against it. And that's how they work. That's how they work, folks. And so that's why we have to go to these meetings, even though they're completely unnecessary. And we're spending a fortune. You see those two people? That was just two people from about a half a dozen, probably more, different bureaucrats who were in that building. There were almost as many of them as there were people who were visitors of the meeting to speak out against the meeting. And the majority of us, we were completely opposed to the wind turbines. But the question he was asking was a legitimate question. The guy who was speaking for the DCLD was saying that Oregon has a goal of becoming carbon free by 2040. And part of that is these wind turbines off the coast is going to help us become carbon free. And so Lynn says, whoa, wait a minute. You just said in an earlier statement that you don't know where this energy is going. Is it going to Oregon? Is it going to California? Is it just going to be blown up into the space? Where's this energy going? And the guy couldn't answer us. He couldn't say it was coming to Oregon, and he couldn't say it was going to California. Now, here's what I've heard. They're going to, and this is what I've heard all along, they put these wind turbines in there, that's those cables, they're going to come off the wind turbines right into the port of Coos Bay and right into the port of Brookings. They're going to put up these huge infrastructures in these port facilities, which means they're going to have to expand it, which means eminent domain is coming. And then they're going to have to pipe it to California if that's the case. But what that means is that it's not going to be there. That energy is not going to be there to offset the carbon footprint that we create every year by using their term fossil fuel. They want clean energy. Well, if you can't count on those wind turbines, then why are you telling us people that you're going to be carbon free by 2040 when the wind turbines, we don't even know where the energy's going? And as you could see, he never really would answer the question. He never tells you where the energy's going, because I'm not sure if they know or not, but I think somebody should know. Somebody should be able to answer us. I think it's a valid question. Are we going to ruin the coast of Southern Oregon to provide energy to a bunch of shitty Californians, Or are we going to provide it for ourselves? I think that's a valid question. They can't answer it. And if it's going to California, it's not going to help us become carbon free here in Oregon. So that's just some of the nonsense we were putting up with the meeting yesterday. I've got another video. I got another video here. And this is just another valid question of what we were talking about.
All right, I'll send it to you.
And there's one other area you didn't mention that's very important, and that's onshore. We always talk about offshore. Where is this electricity going? There's going to be a lot of transmitting of power back to onshore. There's going to be substations required. How much private property is going to be condemned for the onshore transmission of this electricity? Why is that not being covered and letting the people know what is going to happen to our community here if these offshore windmills are built?
According to Bowen, we have to pay for it. If they come on, we have to build them.
Well, I can try to answer that question at a later point in my presentation, because I do talk about that.
And wow, was that over with?
All right, I'll send it to you.
Okay, couldn't figure out how to turn that video off. But once again, where are they going to put that energy? They're not talking about the second phase. Well, I'm not sure if it is the second. I'm not sure what phase it is when they bring the energy onshore. They're going to have to bring that energy onshore. They're going to have to build generation plants, holding storage plants for the energy. Then they're going to have to transmit that energy. So all of that is going to take land. Whose land do you think they're going to use? Yeah, I bet there's a lot of people out there. You need to be worried. If you're a property owner in Coos County and Curry County, you need to be worried, because I believe all of that land that's going to be in for eminent domain is to take all of the power down to California. And I really don't want to power California, because, well, if I wanted to be in California, I'd go to California. I'd encourage the governor of California I would say his name, but I don't use the N word on my show. Yeah, I don't use the N word. That's Newsom for anyone who's not sure. Yeah, I don't want to use his name, but it's just infuriating that these people are getting paid. They are getting paid so much money. And like Alex Bowser, you're saying here, they know it will never work, and they know it will never work. That's the most frustrating thing. And when I got up there and I spoke, I was the only one that tuned in on an issue that nobody was focusing on, and that was the legislature. I said that I basically said what I said at the beginning of talking about this issue, is that I got up there and I said, you guys are blaming the wrong people. You're mad at the bureaucrats. Now, I'm not happy with the bureaucrats. I think their answers were vague, but the fact is that we need to be blaming the legislators who passed the bill. And it's time to change all of those legislators out. It's time to change the 4 Republicans who represent Curry and Coos County, all of them. Court Boyce, David Brock Smith, Dick Anderson, and Boomer Wright, all of them need to be replaced. They need to be replaced with some hardcore conservatives that know how to say no. And Alex, you ask a legitimate, where has it ever worked? See, that's something we always keep asking them. Where do these turbines, where do they work? And you know what their answer was? Well, we don't know, because the turbines that they want to put off the coast of Oregon, the technology for those turbines doesn't exist yet. Did you hear me? The turbines that they want to put off the coast of Oregon, they don't exist yet. The technology for that does not exist. So they're forcing something on us that hasn't even been created by science and engineers. It doesn't exist yet. And that's where we're going with this. And it's just absolutely, it was insane. And then get this, you're going to love this. The next day, the following day, they had it started at 8 in the morning and went till 5 o'clock. They were having another meeting on the exact same topic, the wind turbines. That's a 8-hour day that they were going to pay these people to do a meeting that even those people admit is unnecessary. That's government for you. That's government for you. And by the way, in June, and I forget what date in June, they're having this meeting again. They're having this meeting again at the Mill Casino. So I'm going to have to make a trip to the damn Mill Casino to say everything I said again, because like I said, if we don't show up, then it gives them the excuse to say, oh, see, nobody showed up opposing this, so they must be all for it. Nobody there at that meeting last week was for it. And it's so infuriating. And then you have people like David Brock Smith, who was for the wind turbines. He was for this project. He passed, or he sponsored House Bill 3375, and it passed the legislature. The governor signed it, and that was the original bill that created the original roadmap to make it easier for the federal government come in here and place those wind turbines. And then he lies about it. It's time to replace these legislators. And these meetings that are going on right now that are costing us, I'm going to do a FOIA request. How much you want to think that that meeting on Thursday cost us? There was about a half a dozen bureaucrats there. Several of them had to travel from 4 or 5 hours away. They had to spend the night. They had, of course, then there's food, lodging, all of that stuff adds up. I want to know, and I will find out because I'm going to do a FOIA request, how much these meetings are costing us, because I'm just absolutely infuriated that I'm being forced to do something that is completely superfluous, unnecessary. And this is due to our legislature. And I thank you, Lynn Coker. Thank you, Thina and Diane. Rich was in that video. Thank all of you so much for showing up to these meetings, because I don't know how I'd make it through these meetings. I mean, if I had to sit there in a room full of liberals who were supporting this garbage, which nobody was supporting it, but if I had to, it would make it so much tougher knowing that these meetings were unnecessary. It just ticks me off. There was a couple of stories that I did want to talk about because they just came out. It just happens. It just happened. Let me see if I can share this on my screen here. Why is that not allowing me to share? What's wrong with you? Well, let's stop sharing and see if we can reset it. Share screen. Here we go. This is what I wanted you to see. This is a story that just happened today. And thank goodness this happened. U.S. reaches agreement. The U.S. government reaches agreement to settle a lawsuit brought over Ashley Babbitt's shooting during Capitol riots. One of the liberal papers said the Trump administration, or did it just say Trump? I can't remember. It said Trump reached an agreement for the settlement for the Ashley. Trump had nothing to do with this settlement. This was a settlement because the government was wrong for shooting an unarmed, or allowing an officer to shoot an unarmed protester, and that's all she was. She was just a protester. Believe me, you lived through 2020. You lived through 2021. All of those people who did protests of the George Floyd protests, those were violent protests. You couldn't even call them protests. I know they tried to call them mostly peaceful, but that was rioting, looting, stealing, arson, vandalism. It was everything but protesting. Well, this lady here, she got shot at the Capitol, and the U.S. has reached an agreement. I think it was $5 million. Let me see. Let me check out the story here. Maybe I can find out that. There's Ashley Babbitt's mother. Let's see. Babbitt's estate filed the $30 million lawsuit last year over her fatal shooting when she attempted to climb through the broken window of a barricade door leading to the speaker's lobby inside the Capitol on January 6th. The Capitol police officer who shot her was cleared of any wrongdoing, which was stupid. He shot an unarmed woman. What a piece of crap he is. By the U.S. Attorney's Office of the District of Columbia, which concluded that he acted in self-defense and in defense of members of Congress, which was, wow. If Congress, if they're afraid of a 130-pound woman who is unarmed, then our Congress is a bunch of pussies. It doesn't say here. It doesn't say here. I think it was 5 million. I'm not sure. Doesn't really matter. Let me get the AP advertisement off there. Yeah, I don't want that either. And so I just thought that I would mention that because it's about time. It's about time she got the award. Then there was one other story that was a local story that I thought I probably should mention because, well, I've been to this place. Let me see if I can get this up here. Oh, it's not going to allow me to do this. Shh. Let me see. Okay, let me share this tab. Okay, so here it is. The Southern Oregon Wildlife Park rated after years of disturbing reports about starving animals and a dead tiger. And that tiger was beautiful. I was there at this place last year, and the lions looked incredibly emaciated. The bear, the black bear, it kept walking in circles around the man-made pond in the small enclosure that they had him in. The black panther just looked miserable. And I don't like these type of places anywhere because I think animals should be out in the wild, and we should do everything we can to protect animals out in the wild. Um, it doesn't mean I'm against hunting them. No, in fact, I think you can save tigers by allowing big game hunters to pay a lot of money to go hunt them, and then you use that money to fund the parks and the birth of new tigers or lions or whatever big game hunters are hunting right now. So I'm not against hunting of these animals. I think there's ways of doing it. But the poachers and people who are just killing willy-nilly out there, they need to be stopped. And I think these animals, most wild animals, they deserve to live in the wild. But unfortunately, situations happen where certain animals have to be kept confined, because once they are confined, you can never let them into the wild because they're no longer living as wild animals. And it's not like a lot of these animals, they were euthanized. Some of these animals, I from what I understand, the camel was euthanized, and there'll probably be others that are going to be euthanized. We'll find out the full report down the road. I'm leaving that. I'm going to leave that for a later time. But I did have to mention that I was there, and after visiting them, me and my wife had a long discussion about whether or not we should report them, because we thought the animals just didn't look healthy, that there was just something wrong. And please forgive us. Please forgive us. We didn't report this. We should have reported it. We were going to wait this year. I was going to go back, take my granddaughter back, and see if the situation was the same as it was last year. Now, I know that there have been reports that the guy who owns this, that he had a vault full of guns and drugs and money, and that vault got robbed. This happened, I believe, a year ago or a couple of years ago, maybe. But it's not like, from what I understand, it's not just about the animals. There were other issues going on with the people who own that. And I should have realized, because the last time I went there, they had a bunch of David Brock's. This was when David Brock Smith was running for office. This safari place had a bunch of his political signs all over the place. And I nearly didn't go in just because of that fact. But it was for my granddaughter, and what the hell? Politics aside, I don't mind going to a business. I don't care. They have a right to support whoever they want. But yeah, I was a little worried about this when I went there. And it's the camel. They did have to put one camel down, from what I understand, and that's just sad. It's just sad. I hate to see animals abused. I hate to see them neglected. And I did have a lot of questions about that place, and it's just strange how this works out. I was really considering going back, possibly talking to the owner, and maybe even filming a little bit the conditions that these lions and tigers and bears, oh my, were in. And it wasn't a very good thing to see. So hopefully this year I'll get to take my grandkid to the wildlife safari in Roseburg, from what I understand. Or is that Winchester? Yeah, Roseburg area. Yeah, I'm going to take her there. And from what I understand, they have a lot more room to run around. And I hope the animals that get taken away from these people are put into good places. Yeah, you have to be careful of these things. It's in the old days, they used to have these traveling circuses, and you would see lions and tigers kept up in these small little cages that were traveled either on a train, they were a train cart, or they were on the back of a semi. I remember this as a kid, and even then I thought, wow, that's totally cruel to keep an animal caged in like that. Yeah, I'm a wild animal myself, and there's no way I could live in a cage myself. So it's a sad situation. And the thing is that I saw so much more outpouring of sympathy for these animals. And then you compare that to the victims of Curtis Buell and Henry Delaney. And there were actually people who were attacking the victims of Henry Delaney, saying that, oh, they're just a bunch of selfish people who want to get back at this guy or something. They're making up all kinds of excuses to defend Henry Delaney when he's been convicted of rape, folks. He's been convicted of rape, folks. And I can tell you right now, it's not going to get any better for Henry Delaney. I've been into contact with 2 women that he raped, allegedly raped, according to them. One was a former girlfriend, and one was a young girl in high school. And those records have been sealed. And from what I understand, there were 4 girls who came out and accused Henry Delaney of rape, and he was able to get off on it. And the lady who, she's a lady now, she was just a teenager then, she was telling me how horrible it was that they treated the victims of Henry's as the actual perpetrator, like they were trying to, once again, damage this young man's reputation. And after listening to her story and then talking to another woman who claims that she was raped by Henry Delaney, it's the exact same story. And these 2 women, their stories takes place probably about 7 years apart. And then there's a third woman I talked to, and I haven't been able to get back into contact with her, who also claims that she was allegedly raped by Henry Delaney. So things are going to be coming out, folks. You keep an eye on this. Things are going to be coming out that are going to validate everything we said about this man. And the same with Curtis Buell. And I believe that the people on the board right now, they're holding on to public records that we are trying to get a hold of, because they know if these public records came out, good chance that people wouldn't be voting for these candidates. And you shouldn't be voting for them anyway. There's a lot of good candidates out there. And I'm talking about the SWAC board right now. There's only one good person who's running for the Coos Bay School District, and that's Chris Castleman. He's the same one running for the SWAC board. It'd be great if he won both boards. That would be great. That'd be a wonderful thing. But going back to all these people who are committing crimes, and then to see the different reactions between when animals are victims of crime and when people are victims of crime, other people seem to have more sympathy and empathy for the animals than they do for their fellow humans. I don't know what that is. But that's just odd. It's an odd thing. So we got a lot of things going on in Coos County. I hope you pay attention. Let's see. I need to do a commercial because I've got sponsors. My sponsors kick ass. And by the way, just in case you didn't know, we have a winner for today's round of Where's Three's True Service. They already had a winner. Like I said, they already taken care of that. But they're great sponsors of mine. I do appreciate all the stuff they do for us, and I appreciate everything they do for our community. When we had that storm just a couple of months ago, remember all those trees came down? We had those heavy winds, heavy storms, and those trees came out. 3H Tree Service was out there cutting down trees that were blocking roads, and they were doing it on their own time and on their own dime. That's how cool these people are. So I always want to promote them because they do one hell of a good job. And so I'm going to play their commercial right now. 3H Tree Service. You can find them on Facebook at 3H Tree Service. And if you want to see more of those cool videos, they got a lot of really cool videos out there. Matt Holman came through and actually did a maintenance video on chainsaws, which is really good video. I was asking him about certain things to take care of my chainsaw. If you don't work with the things all the time, you don't know the tricks and stuff. So I was asking him about it, and he can probably help you out if you got some trees that you need taken care of. You can reach him at 541-294-1800. Once again, that's 541-294-1800. And every Monday we play Where's 3H Tree Service. And if you can locate the guys after the game is started, you can win $50. And they're somewhere in Coos County every Monday, and all you got to do is find them. And someone's already found them today, but that's all right. It'll happen again next week. But 3H Tree Service, they can take care of all your tree removal needs. They can remove those trees with surgical precision. And look, they've had other winners. Yeah, there's Jody, there's Nancy. You got a lot of good people. And they do a lot of good work. 3H Tree Service, highly recommend them. And of course, Tom and Gigs. I just saw Tim last week, and boy, he's doing good. And I'll tell you what, they've got a lot of really cool stuff on sale right now and for sale. 135 South Shoneman. Yuck, I spit on my mic. Gross. But Tim over at Tom and Gigs, he can take care of those needs. If you need an RC car, you need shocks, struts, you need to get your car aligned. Heck, you're going to go on a trip and you need that car checked out to make sure you're safe for a trip. Tom and Gigs can do that for you. 135 South Shoneman Street in Coos Bay in the Empire neighborhood. And if you know where the Empire neighborhood is, you probably know where the car wash is, and they're right behind the car wash. And let me show you some of the really cool stuff that they got on sale for. They've really cool RC cars. If you got some kids at home, and they're interested in this kind of stuff, this is the place you need to go. This guy right here can tell you about all the parts, anything to do with RC cars. He can take care of you on this. Look at that. That's just absolutely cool. They've got all the parts for these vehicles. That's really cool. I really like that one. They've got some on sale right now. This one's running at $380, and it's the Bigfoot 4x. Yeah, you might need that. Really good stuff over there at Tom and Gigs. They've got model planes. You can fly model planes. Really cool stuff. They've got a remote control helicopter. And they have some tannerite on sale. I believe that sale is still going on. So if you need some tannerite, and who knows, you might have a need. You got moles. I don't know. That's probably environmentally unsound. But for those of you who know how to properly handle tannerite, this is really cool. You can turn money into noise, and they do a great job. And remember, you must be 18 years or older to purchase tannerite, and they will ask you for your ID. The other third sponsor that I really appreciate these sponsors. I really appreciate it. If it wasn't for them, I don't know if I could do all the stuff that we're doing here. Herbal Choices Cannabis. The herbalchoices.com website is available for anyone who wants to know more about Herbal Choices. You remember, you must be 21 years or older to go to Herbal Choices. You must be 21 years older to buy weed or to smoke weed. In fact, you may want to wait till you're 25, maybe 30. Heck, I probably should have waited until I was 50, and then I'd have a good reason to smoke pot. I had a 30-year mortgage. Yeah, I need to smoke some pot. But Herbal Choices, and it was really cool this past Friday. We drink usually on Fridays, our Friday night rant. We cuss and we drink on Friday. So if you watch the Friday night rant, don't be surprised if you see us drinking alcohol or other stuff and a cussing every now and then, because it's the rant. We rant, and that's what you do. But I had a really cool marijuana infused soda. It was a grape soda. It was called the Mary Jones soda. And I'll tell you what, that was some good stuff. Because you drink the soda, it takes 20, 30 minutes to slowly drink down a soda. And boy, by the time I was done with that soda, I didn't have a care in the world. And I thought, this is better than beer, because, I would have to drink 6 beers to feel as good as I felt drinking that soda. So I don't know, compared to, to liquor, I prefer cannabis. I just think it's if you're going to take intoxicants, I think it's a much better intoxicant to imbibe in. And it's funny, if you go back, I was just watching History Channel this past weekend, and they were talking about prohibition. Did you know that during prohibition in New York, in New York alone, the city of New York, they had over 5,000 places where you could smoke pot, because pot was legal during prohibition and alcohol wasn't. So, when people go, oh, well, that's a new drug. You kids are smoking this pot. No, your great grandma, she might have been smoking pot as a flapper back in the 20s when prohibition was happening. It could have been a possibility. So, it's not just about hippies. Most of the pot smokers I know aren't even hippies. So, and like I said, there are so many other more sophisticated ways of intaking THC. And like I said, the soda I had, or the gummies that they sell, really good products over there. And of course, they have the leafy green cannabis for people who, well, you're old fashioned. That's the way you do it. But remember, you have to be 21 or older to partake in that business. By the way, they have 5 stores, one in Charleston, one in Coos Bay, one in Bandon, one in Reedsport, and of course, one in North Bend. And I always have to mention Oregon Firearms. Find out more at OregonFirearms.org. Really good people defending your Second Amendment rights. And they're not my sponsors, but I do like to mention them. Bandon Gun Club, BandonGunClub.org. If you want to hone in your firearm skill and you live in Bandon, go to BandonClub.org and you can find out how to become a member of their gun club. And if you have a rifle, because they don't have a rifle range at the Bandon Gun Club, but they do have one at Tioga Sports Park, go to TiogaSportsPark.org and you can find out when and where they're going to be doing their next having the next time the park is open, because they're ran on volunteers, and you can become a volunteer if you want. They are looking for park rangers to help out with the Tioga Sports Park, and you can find out more at TiogaSportsPark.org. Coos County Neighborhood Watch, boy, these guys are incredible stuff going on. But if you want to become a member, go over to Coos County Neighborhood Watch. And like I said, I get up every morning and check out what's happening, because I know that the crimes that happen during the night will be listed and the offenders will be listed, and they'll be able to tell you if they've been caught or not, all here on Coos County Neighborhood Watch. Check it out. Really good Facebook page. And of course, I always like to promote them. Coos County Citizen Council. They have a weekly podcast that Chris Castleman does every Wednesday. And I think he's looking into turning the Coos County Citizen Council into a more of a public journalistic page where you get out news stories. I think that would be very interesting, but I like what he's doing over there. Coos County Citizen Watch, that's on Facebook. Let's see, I got a comment. Watch Reefer Madness, really old movie. Yes, we used to, back in the day, I was one of those people who, one of the reasons I got really involved with politics is that I was trying to legalize marijuana. And we used to have regular showings of Reefer Madness, and we would charge people to come in and see the show. And then we'd use that money to do all the events that we had during the year. So yeah, Reefer Madness, really entertaining stuff. Boy, they were really confused about the effects of marijuana back then. James McHenry says, marijuana has been around for a long time. The marijuana that we have today is a lot more stronger than what our parents, grandparents, and great-parents might have been smoking. James, I disagree with you. I've heard that before, but I can tell you right now, the Colombian Red Bud and those Thai sticks I used to get in the 70s could blow away anything they have today. It was just as powerful then as what we have there. You just had to know who to get in contact with. So when people tell you that, tell them to prove it. Tell them to prove it. Let's see them prove it, because back in the day, we had this New Mexican skunk weed. We'd grow this in Placitas, and these plants would get about 20, 25 feet tall, huge plants, the only green thing in the desert. And we would get buds off of them. They would be about this big, and they would smell like skunk. It was hard enough to keep these plants concealed from the authorities, but the fact that they had such an odor to them. But I can guarantee you the THC level in these skunk plants matched anything in the THC level of the plants today. And I can say this because I was a pot smoker back in the 70s, and I'm still a pot smoker now. So I think I know a little bit about the subject. And so when people tell you that, oh no, pot back then, it was crappy. Yeah, most of the pot back then was crappy because we were getting it from Mexico, and they would compress the weed, and all the stems and the seeds and any bugs that got in there got all pressed into this big old bale of marijuana. And then they would smuggle that into the United States. And so most people go, oh yeah, see, back then marijuana sucked. Yeah, well, that marijuana sucked. But I can tell you right now, if you knew what you were doing and you had connections, you could find some incredibly powerful marijuana. Back in the early 80s, we used to keep them in mason jars, and we'd have these plants. And like I said, the skunk plants, the Thai weed, all of that stuff, very comparable to what they're doing today. So I want to push back against that theory that, oh, pot, it wasn't anything back then. Well, I got news for you. People have been smoking pot for a long time, and I can guarantee you, going back to 2,000 years, when the Egyptians used to use marijuana, cannabis, when they used cannabis, I guarantee you, they didn't smoke hemp. They were smoking and utilizing the flowering, the budding part of the plant. That would only make sense. So, yeah, I don't know. Peggy says, wish we could get some good old red hair, laugh for hours. Yeah, the good old redbud from Colombia. What happened? I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, Peggy. Cocaine came in. All of a sudden, they realized they could make 10 times the amount of money bringing cocaine in. So all of a sudden, the Colombian redbud market died. It completely died. But yeah, years ago, we used to bring in that redbud from Colombia. Good stuff. Really incredible stuff. Jeff P says, no stems, no seeds that you don't need. Acapulco Gold is some badass. Acapulco Gold was some damn badass. There you go. Acapulco Gold, back in the day, I guarantee you, back in the day, Acapulco Gold was just equivalent to any high grade weed they have today. Oh, Peggy, I love that. I'm older than you. I love you, Peggy. I love you, man. You made my day. Yes. And it's amazing. You know, being only 27, it's amazing. You're 28, 30 now? Incredible. You look good for your age, Peggy. We're doing great. And so I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Peggy, Jeff, Sam, all the rest of you, Alex, I appreciate everything you guys do. It's one of those things. Oh, thank you. Love the little hearts. I wish I could send hearts over the screen. They should allow me some. I'm going to call StreamYard after this and say, I demand that I want to be able to heart back when people heart me. They should have a middle finger too. Then when people middle finger you, you can put the middle finger up. I don't know. Just me. Well, I want to thank you all for tuning in. It's been a wonderful time, and I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow at 8 o'clock, I'm going to be back here again because of the election. Don't want to be. That's just the way. But it should be a good day. And who knows? We may have some really good winners coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow should be a good day. I don't know. Marcia Jensen, are you feeling lucky? I don't know. We're going to find out. And so I'll see you all mañana tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Special edition of the Rob Taylor Report. And until then, you know what I always say, folks? Carry on, Coos County. Carry on.